So in this section, I'm going to introduce you to international finance. And international finance is basically about exchange rates, exchange rate determination, and then we will talk about issues of speculations in exchange rates. We would also talk about purchasing power parity. We'll talk about interest rate parity. Of course, we will talk about the exchange rate systems. Okay, exchange rate systems. And then we will talk about effects of exchange rate on businesses, which is more important. Okay, so let's start with exchange. What is an exchange rate? So exchange rate is simply the price of a foreign currency. Simple. Exchange rate is simply the price of a foreign currency. Whenever you hear exchange rate, is simply the price of a foreign currency. Okay, so the price of $1 is around 6 cedis. Now, to understand exchange rate very easily and simple, always think of the foreign currency like a normal commodity, like maybe a bottle of water or maybe a bag of rice or something. Just think about the foreign currency like a commodity that you are going to buy. Okay, so exchange rate is simply the price of a foreign currency. So if the exchange rate of the cedi to the dollar is, let's say, 6 cedis is to $1. Okay, so if it is 6 cedis to $1, what it simply means is that if you are going to buy $1, the price will be 6 cedis. If you are going to buy $1, the price will be 6 cedis. So basically, exchange rate is simply the price of a foreign currency. The price of a foreign currency. That's exchange rate. Now, as I mentioned, exchange rate measures the value of one currency in unit of another currency. Okay, it measures the value of one currency in unit of another currency. Now, if a currency declines in value, it is said to have depreciated. And if a currency increases in value, it is said to have appreciated. If a currency decreases in value, we say that that currency has depreciated. And if currency increases in value, we say that that currency has appreciated. How does currency depreciate? This is it. So assuming that in January, we had 5 cedis, 50 pesos to $1. And now in September, we have 6 cedis, 9 pesos to $1. So it means that now we will need more cedis to buy $1 than before. Okay, it means that now we will need more cedis to buy $1 than before. What that implies is that the cedi has depreciated. The cedi has lost value. All right, the cedi has depreciated or it has lost value. But if it was vice versa. Assuming this was January and this was rather September, it will mean that now we need lesser cedis to buy $1 than before. And this implies that the CD would have appreciated, okay? The CD would have appreciated. So when it comes to depreciation and appreciation, you should understand it easily. If you need more CDs to buy a foreign currency than before, it means your CD has depreciated. The value of the CD has gone down. And if you need less CDs to buy a foreign currency than before, it means that now your CD has become stronger or it has appreciated. Now, how do we compute the percentage in appreciation and then the percentage in depreciation? Okay, we employ simple mathematics in computing change. We all know that percentage change in something is the current value of that thing minus the previous value over the previous value times 100%. So the current value minus the previous value over the previous value times 100%, all right? So let's say we had 5 CDs, 50 pesos to $1. But now it's 6 CDs, 9 pesos to the same $1. If you want to compute the changes, so let's say this is then and this is now. So if you want to compute the changes, it will be the current one, okay, which is 6.09 minus the previous, which is 5 CDs 50 pesos over the previous 5 CDs 50 pesos times 100%. All right, times 100%. So when you punch that, you are going to get 10.73%. Okay, this means that the CD has depreciated. All right, the CD has depreciated by 10.73%, or the dollar has appreciated by 10.73% because the dollar has become stronger and the CD has become weaker. Okay, so anytime you compute the percentage change in the value of a foreign currency, if you get a positive answer, it means the local currency has depreciated or the foreign currency has appreciated. All right, if you get a positive figure, because now we will need more CDs to buy $1 than before. Okay, but assuming you had a negative figure, let's say $1 now is 5 CD 50 pesos. That's $1 now. And $1 before was 6 CDs 9 pesos. So the calculation would have been 5.5 minus 6.09 over 5.5 times 100%. And this, oh, sorry, divided by 6.09, sorry, times 100%. So if you do this correctly, you are going to get negative 9.7%. Negative 9.7%. Now, when you get a negative answer, it means that the foreign currency has depreciated or the local currency has appreciated. If you get a negative answer, it means that the foreign currency has depreciated, or the local currency has become stronger, okay? Or the local currency has rather become stronger. If you get a negative answer, that is what it means. So anytime you hear on the news that this week the cedi depreciated by 1%, okay, or the percentage change was 1%, it means that the cedi has depreciated by 1%. All right, that means the cedi has become weaker. But if you hear on the news that this week the percentage change in the exchange rate was -2%, it means that the cedi has rather become stronger, and then the foreign currency has become weaker. Okay, the foreign currency has now become weaker. Now, you can compute this, all right? There's an example that you can compute. Here, dollar was being used as the home country, but you can change all these things to cedis, cedis per pound, and you can do the computation for the percentage change, okay? So you can do that. It's very easy. You just use the formula and then get the answer. So you can try that. Okay, so we are going to explain how exchange rate achieves equilibrium, all right? How exchange rate achieves equilibrium. How exchange rate achieves equilibrium. Now, an exchange rate, note that, as I said, exchange rate is the price of a foreign currency, that's all. Exchange rate is the price of a foreign currency. That means that the exchange rate is determined by demand and supply of the foreign currency. So here will be quantity of dollar, and here will be the exchange rate. So the exchange rate is the price of a foreign currency. All right, exchange rate is the price of a foreign currency. Exchange rate is the price of a foreign currency. Okay. So here, what it means is that if people demand more of dollar, okay, holding supply of dollar constant, the exchange rate is going to shoot up. Okay. If people demand more of dollar, why do people demand dollar? Maybe people demand more of dollar because they want to import. Okay. When I say people are demanding more of dollar, they wish to have dollar in their hands because probably they want to import or for whatever reason. So when people demand more of the dollar, what it means is that holding supply of dollar constant, the price are going to rise. So essentially, what I want you to know is that the exchange rate is determined basically by the demand and supply of the foreign currency. Now, what you also need to note is that the liquidity of a currency affects the sensitivity of the exchange rate to specific transaction. Okay. When we talk about liquidity, okay, or when you say something is liquid, when something is liquid, it means that there are many buyers and sellers of that thing. That means that that thing can easily be converted to money. So if dollar was a commodity and there are many buyers and sellers of the dollar, it means that dollar can easily be converted to money or cedis. Okay. So the extent to which exchange rate will move will depend on how liquid the currency is. If some currency are not liquid, like when I say currency is not liquid, it means that that currency, we don't have many buyers and sellers of it. That means that it will be difficult for the demand and supply to really affect exchange rate. But once the currencies are liquid, okay, there is an easy adjustment mechanisms. Okay, let's say people are demanding more of dollars. If we have more sellers of dollars, they will also supply more. Now demand will increase, supply will increase, prices can be stable. Okay, but if a currency like maybe Mexican peso, people are demanding more of Mexican peso, they want to go to Mexico and go and transact business. Meanwhile, we don't have many sellers of Mexican peso. It means that the prices of Mexican peso is going to skyrocket. So in other words, for liquid currencies, there is an easy adjustment mechanism to make the currency stable. But for illiquid currency, when I say liquid currencies, currencies that we don't have many buyers and sellers, what it means is that once there's a shift in any of them, it will take a long time for the prices to readjust. Now, what are the factors that influence exchange rates? What are the factors that influence exchange rates? And you have to listen to this very carefully. What are the factors that influence exchange rates? Number one, exchange rate can be influenced by changes in relative inflation. Number two, changes in relative interest rate. Number three, change in income level. Number four, change in government control. Number five, changes in future expectations. Let's take them one after the other. Now, please listen to this carefully. Okay, it's very important. How can inflation affect exchange rates? Now, assume that inflation in Ghana rises. Okay, assume that inflation in Ghana rises. What is going to happen is that Ghanaian goods, holding all other factors constant, Ghanaian goods are going to become more expensive as compared to foreign goods. Holding all other factors constant, Ghanaian goods are going to become more expensive as compared to foreign goods. Now, when that happens, okay, when Ghanaian goods become more expensive as compared to foreign goods, Ghanaians are going to now do more of imports. So once we are doing more of imports, demand for foreign goods, in essence, demand for foreign currency will shoot up. So once we are demanding more foreign goods, we need to convert our money to foreign currency before we can buy the foreign goods. So once we are demanding more of foreign goods, what it then simply means is that the demand for foreign currency is going to rise. All right. Now let's look at the supply of foreign currency. Remember that a country is able to get more supply of foreign currency when the country does more exports. When you export more, you're going to get more supply of what? Foreign currency. So when you export more, you're going to get more supply of foreign currency. So remember that now the Ghanaian goods have become expensive. So it is going to decrease exports. And once exports decrease, what it also means is that there will be a decrease in supply of foreign currency. That means that the supply of foreign currency will also fall. Okay, supply of foreign currency will also fall. So when supply of foreign currency falls and demand for foreign currency rises, definitely the price or the exchange rate is going to rise. The price of the foreign currency is going to what? Rise. The price of the foreign currency or the exchange rate is going to rise. So that is how inflation affects exchange rate. Number two, relative interest rate. Relative interest rate. So please follow this carefully. It's quite tricky. Relative interest rate. Now, what I want you to notice is that, you see, when interest rate goes up in Ghana, okay, when interest rate goes up in Ghana, it will encourage investment in Ghana, but it will discourage investment outside. The name is relative interest rate. So here we assume that interest rate in Ghana and then let's say in the UK are the same. But now let's examine the situation where Ghana interest rate rises as compared to UK interest rate. That's why we use the word relative. Now, when Ghana interest rate rises as compared to the UK interest rate, Ghana will be more attractive for investment. What it means is that Ghanaians don't need to change their money. Listen carefully. Ghanaians don't need to change their money to pounds and go and invest outside. So it will decrease the demand for pounds because we will not demand pounds for anything. We will stay in Ghana and invest. Okay, we will stay in Ghana and invest. So we will not demand pounds to go and invest in UK. We will stay in Ghana and invest. On the other hand, let's look at the supply side. On the supply, or from the supply point of view, what is going to happen is that foreigners are even going to rush to Ghana to come and what? Invest. So there will be increase in supply of pounds because everybody will be coming here to invest. So they'll bring their pounds here, and then there'll be more supply of pounds. So what will happen then is that supply is going to increase, but demand is going to decrease. So definitely the price of the pounds is going to fall. So there will be a reduction in the price of the pound. Okay. Somebody might be wondering, I only explained it from the investment perspective. We can also explain this same scenario from the borrowing perspective. We can also explain this scenario from the borrowing perspective. So let's do this. Now, if interest rate in Ghana is high, okay, in terms of even borrowing, what it will mean is that people would go and borrow from outside. People will go and borrow from outside. If interest rate in Ghana is high, people will go and borrow from outside. Now, when people borrow from outside, when they are coming back with the borrowing, they are coming back with a foreign currency. So it will still mean that there will be an increase in supply of foreign currency because people will wish to borrow more from outside. Once they go and borrow the pounds and they are coming, they will bring the foreign currency here. So there will still be an increase in supply of foreign currency. On the other hand, foreigners that were borrowing from Ghana, okay, that would mean that they were demanding our cedis. Because if you borrow from Ghana, you borrow cedis. But since the cost of borrowing in Ghana has gone up, they will decrease their demand for that. So okay, so that is it from the borrowing perspective. Now, when we are dealing with interest rates, we have to be very careful. Sometimes it is good to consider real interest rates than nominal interest rates when you are doing some of this analysis, because real interest rates would reduce the inflationary component of the nominal interest rate so that we don't overestimate interest rates. Okay, so when we are dealing with this kind of interest rate movement, which causes changes in exchange rates, we have to be very careful to rather use real interest rate. So real interest rate is simply nominal interest rate minus inflation, which means that nominal interest rate is equal to real interest rate plus inflation, right? Plus inflation. We will talk about it later, the Fisher effect. So let's finish with the factors that causes increases or changes in exchange rate, and then I'll give room for any questions. Now, relative income levels. What I want you to know is that when the income level of a country rises, that is when the consumers will now know that they have taste for foreign goods. It's like that. Whenever income rises, you buy the locally made goods and you develop taste for foreign goods. So when that happens, there will be an increase in demand for foreign currency because there's much money in the system and you have to convert that money into foreign currency before you can go and buy from outside. So relative income levels, when it rises, people will now do more of imports. And when they do more of import, they will demand more of the foreign currency. And when they demand more of the foreign currency, holding supply of the foreign currency constant, the price or the exchange rate is going to shoot up, all right? Then also we have government controls. Government can also control exchange rate movement by number one, imposing foreign exchange barriers. Government can reduce imports, like by imposing foreign exchange rate barrier. What it means is that government can say that, okay, in a day, nobody should be allowed to change cedis to dollars of this much. It has happened in advanced countries, like in the olden days, it got to the extent that even some countries that are very strict on these laws, they were shooting people at the forest bureaus because those people were causing a mess to the economy. So government can impose barriers on foreign exchange bureaus that in a day you are not supposed to exchange cedis for dollars beyond this much. Once you do that, you are creating more demand for dollars and there is not helping. Okay. Again, government can impose foreign trade barriers. Government can impose foreign trade barriers like embargo, quota, trade restrictions that will limit imports. And once import is limited, it can make the currency stable because there will be less demand for foreign currency. Number three, government can directly enter the foreign exchange market by buying or selling currencies. So for instance, in Ghana, I got to the point where we said that we heard the government was pumping something billion dollars into the system every day. They were doing that because they were trying to they are trying to increase the supply of dollar. And once we increase the supply of dollar, the price of the dollar will come down. So that made our currency quite stable. But it didn't last, of course. Then government can also affect variables like inflation, interest rates, and income levels, which will feed into what? Exchange rate determination. Because we said inflation affects exchange rate, interest rate affects exchange rate, income levels affect exchange rate. Okay. Then finally, we will talk about the role of expectation. The role of expectation. So here, if people expect that there will be inflation, they will react by causing the inflation now. And I've explained this to you in the earlier lessons. So if people expect inflation, they'll react by causing the inflation. And that means that they will demand more, suppliers will supply less, because when they hear that there is inflation coming, that's what is going to happen now. And once inflation occurs, our currency is going to depreciate, right? So speculations, even expectations of the exchange rate itself can also affect exchange rate. For instance, if we hear or we have information that next week the dollar is going to become more expensive, because we expect that, we are going to buy more dollars now. We are going to buy more dollars now. When we buy more dollars now, the price of the dollar is going to shoot up, and then exchange rate is going to rise. Okay. So expectations in terms of the exchange rate itself, in terms of inflation, in terms of interest rate, all of these can affect the exchange rate movement. Then finally, all the factors we've talked about can interact at the same time to cause pressures on the foreign exchange, right? So all these factors can interact to cause or to increase the pressures on the exchange rate. All these factors can interact. So we have trade-related factors. Of course, inflation is a trade-related factor because it will cause issue of imports. Income differential will also lead to increase in imports. Government trade restrictions can also affect imports. So these factors, we call them trade factors. And then we also have financial factors like interest rate differential. When interest rate changes, it can lead to changes in the financial market. And that will lead to changes in exchange rates. And also government can restrict capital inflow, okay, or restrict capital outflow. Government can say that don't send your capital outside. Because if you are sending your capital outside, you'll be demanding more foreign currency because you need to change your money into foreign currency before you can invest outside. So these things can interact to cause changes in exchange rate. All right. So there's an example here that you can go through. And in the next section, we would solve some further examples. So you bring the meeting to an end here.